Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here with a hot take on what you gonna do after the election. Here's Trump delivering some remarks upon arrival in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's stumping hard, man. You got to hand it to the guy. Look at the energy in him. Let's play a little bit of this.
So it's going very well.
It's always going well.
Crowds. We have a tremendous crowd in Green Bay. We were going to have 25,000 people at least in Minnesota, but the governor wanted it to be, I guess, freedom of speech. 250 people, and rather than canceling, I'm going to see the people. Probably a lot of people are going to be showing up anyway, but we're going to have 25,000 at least. We have a very big crowd here. We have a big crowd everywhere. There's something going on that's very exciting, and I think you're going to see that on the.
So, yeah, I mean, he's just crushing these crowds. They're huge. But regardless of who wins on November 3rd, and I think it's going to be Trump in a landslide, red landslide, that's my prediction. I think you're going to see riots either way. It's not really going to matter if Biden gets in. Keep in mind that the original Antifa riots that happened during Trump's inauguration were originally organized for Hillary Clinton. They were organized against Hillary Clinton. And then Trump won. They were like, well, okay, let's protest him. The hardcore leftists, they make no distinction between a guy like Trump and a neoliberal like Biden. There's really not much of a difference there. If anything, they see their opportunity with Biden because they perceive him as weak. And I think he is weak. So they can push him a little further, get him to concede on some of this critical race theory and a bunch of other BS, and then later, they'll be okay for like a week, and then they'll just come right back and start protesting, asking for more. Won't be enough until, somebody agrees to leave office. That's what they want. They want you to leave office, dismantle the government, and then they'll be happy because then they can rush in and fill the vacuum. But so if you're preparing for November 3rd and really the 4th or the night of the 3rd into the 4th, really it's about the 4th, I think, because normally we don't know who's president until late on the 3rd or early morning on the 4th, a lot of people. So first, you got to vote, right? A lot of you are like me. You're waiting to the day of to vote. So my plan to vote is to fill out the mailer, that I got. And we got one in New Jersey. You may not have gotten one where you live, but I'll have that all filled out. And with me, in case I get to the polling station and it's closed or it's absolutely mobbed and it's raining or something that will basically make it very hard for me to vote, and I'll just be like, well, instead of dropping my vote off, instead of waiting in line to vote in person, I'll go to a drop-off place and drop it off, which is not what I want to do. It's not ideal for me, but I'll do that if the line is just massive. So I'll have that there ready to go. Because keep in mind, in some parts of the country and other elections, people waited in line and then they just closed the polls. And then he just said, well, sorry, we have to close the polls. Because that was like state law or something. So you want to get your vote in. So if you have the mailer, fill it all out, get it all ready. And then when you go, keep that in your sort of hip pocket that if you don't get in to vote or it's just crazy or there's some incident or whatever, you can then just go to, probably the polling station will have a box as well. Or perhaps you could skip the line and just say, well, I just want to turn in my vote or whatever. So do that. That's the first thing. Now that you've voted, now it's time to find a safe place to watch the election results. Now, depends on where you live. If you live in a major city and you can afford it at all, get out is my advice. Get out of the city. Plan on being out for 2 or 3 days at least. Take your valuables, take your little pets. Don't leave anything of value behind because you don't know what's going to happen to your place while you're gone. They could burn down the whole building. So get all your computer files and whatever you need, get it all ready, and get out. Go out into the country as far as you can, in the middle of nowhere. Find a nice motel and chill out for a few days. Relax, have a little mini vacation if you can. Now, a lot of people, you can't afford that. If you can't afford that and you're stuck in the city, my suggestion is to prepare a bug out bag. And what a bug out bag is, it's a survivalist term, usually for the end of the world. It may not be the end of the world. I don't think it will be, but you do want a bag to allow you to get all your valuables out and yourself with all the basics, so you could survive for a few days outside your place, and in case you have to abandon your place, because again, they could light a lot of fires. Your building could catch on fire, and you want to be ready to get the hell out of there. So get a knapsack or whatever, fill it full of your most precious items that you don't need to have displayed around your place for a few days. Get all your files up to date on your computer or whatever. Get some extra pairs of underwear and socks. That's always a good thing to have. Maybe a small change of clothes or some jammies, a bottle of water, some snacks, stuff like that. So if you do have to scurry away, you could just grab the bag, grab your little doggy, and get the hell out. And then, have a plan to get out. Know if you're in an apartment building, know how to get out during a fire. I've suggested before, it depends on where you live, but if you're, like you're on the 4th or 3rd floor and you can afford it, get yourself a little, they have these, they're chain rope ladders, basically. They're ladders made of chain that you could, roll up, and then you can throw them out the window and let them unroll and then climb out. You got to secure them good. But it'll allow you to get out during a fire if you're trapped. If you don't have that, you could be, if you're someplace like Philly or New York and you're on the 20th floor, well, you know your exits. So you're going to have to hit a stairwell and get the hell out. And then the next thing is, where do you go? Well, hopefully you have some friends or relatives, that could get you outside the city. Hopefully you have access to a car or transport. At the very least, if you get out early enough, you could hit the train, get out, avoid the crowds. That's numero uno. Avoid the black bloc types, and just get the hell out. Just get out. Don't try to interact. Just get out. And another strategy would be, of course, you're going to need your mask because you're going to have to get in and out of stores, at least on the East Coast, and then have a hoodie because you could blend in with the rioters, and hopefully they'll just leave you alone if they just see you running with your backpack. You kind of look like one of them. Although you might have your little doggy in tow, so I would tuck little doggy into like my clothes or something, right? Right, doggy? So you'd be safe. So that's a good strategy, I think. Make sure you have some money or access to money. You may not be able to get access to ATMs, and it would be dangerous to be on the street accessing an ATM in the middle of a riot. So have a little cash on you, not too much. Understand you could get robbed, So, you gotta sort of take it. It depends on your situation, right? You could take your laptop with you, and then if you get robbed and lose everything in the backpack, it's all gone. So if you're going to have a set of duplicate files and you have a laptop and you're going to bring the laptop, perhaps you want to leave the duplicate files at home and hope your building doesn't burn down. And keep in mind, too, that a lot of you live in areas where there's not going to be riots. There's just not. I live in an area like that. I don't think there's going to be any riots in my town. It's a small town. It's in South Jersey. I don't think there's going to be any riots even in the more densely populated areas where I work. I can't see that happening. Maybe a couple of people will, scream and protest. I doubt it, though. We didn't see any during any of the other protests. I don't expect to see any now. It's going to be mainly confined to Philly, New York, and all the major cities, because that's where, again, Antifa lives in terms of their ideology. That's where it flies. That's where there's enough of them to create a mob and create problems. There's not enough outside of that unless they export a mob of the Antifa BLM types to the suburbs. And for that, they literally need to march them across a bridge to New Jersey. And the first place they would stop is Camden. And as we say around here, not even Batman goes to Camden. It's a rough neighborhood, so all on its own. There hasn't been, surprisingly, any real threat from BLM there, which I'm shocked. I'm shocked that there wasn't a bit of an uprising there. I'm sure there were people who were in Camden who peacefully protested, but in terms of the rioting, no, that's not happening in Camden, and good. It's a huge improvement over the city, but you're unlikely to see that in South Jersey unless they literally frog march thousands of people across the bridge and try to start trouble in Camden. And they're probably going to get the full brunt of the Metro Police stopping them from totally crossing the bridge. And the bridge cops. The bridge cops are pretty brutal in Philadelphia. They're kind of in a class all their own. So, they start jamming up the bridge. That's an issue. They may hit harder on the bridge than anywhere else, because that's a major artery coming in and out of the city, and they don't want to see that jammed up. And it's dangerous too. I mean, somebody lights a fire on the bridge, it could damage the suspension, a cable could snap, swing across and kill a bunch of people. So they don't mess around when it comes to that bridge. All our bridges, really. But if you're trying to find a place to hide out, again, it all depends upon your money, your status. I know a lot of people are out of work, so it's tough. You might just have to tough it out and go to work and hope things hold together. A lot of you are already in rural areas, a few of you, so I think you're relatively safe. I think the twos of people who might band together to form a BLM march aren't going to be much of a threat in those areas. The cops will come along and tell them to get lost. But hey, you never know. So stay alert. Don't be paranoid. Don't get out of control. And for God's sakes, if the unthinkable happens, or you think the unthinkable happens, there may be times at which it looks like Biden has won, because it's going to go back and forth a bit. Don't freak out. Don't say revolution. That is totally not what you should do. Don't be like the left. They're violent. They're the ones who are going to do a bunch of violence and vandalism, and don't be a party to that. And definitely don't start anything, because if even one Trump supporter starts a fist fight on November 4th, the media will say, aha, they're all Trump supporters. None of this was our supporters. No, I mean, not our supporters. We're not Democrats. I mean, we are Democrats, but it's not like we've been shilling for Biden for 2 years. They will, of course, blame Trump supporters. They've blamed Trump supporters for things that weren't Trump supporters. I mean, the Governor Whitmer thing, it now has come out that at least one of the kidnappers wanted to, quote unquote, hang Trump. So clearly those guys weren't Trump supporters. They're more anti-government, and anarchist than anything else. So just stay calm, soldier on. We will get through this. Have some plans, though. Have some plans. Be prepared. Be prepared to be unable to get to the store. That's another thing too. Stock up on a few things. So, in case there's a bunch of rioting near your area and you can't really get to a store, you have some food, you have toilet paper, and all that. Who knows how long this would go on? I think it'll blow over in a couple of days. Might last a week or two. I mean, you don't know. I mean, they may close down everything just to let things settle in your area. Who knows? So just be prepared and keep watching the skies, as they say. We're going to get through this. And again, Trump's going to win.